I mean, I've just come onto a voice recorder, right, to start to document things on this experience, feeling like I'm in some kind of multiverse and kind of flitting from different dimensions my entire life, different kind of replicated worlds, parallel worlds. I've just come onto the voice recorders to start to document this, and there were four recordings. There were four recordings in voice. Memos, and there was all dated the 5th of March. So we've got 5555, which seems to be a theme through this process, the number 5. So this is my point. In this simulated reality, it doesn't matter, you're just not proving, you're not proving anything that life is a simulation. You're certainly not proving, you've been flitting through different dimensions your entire life. I mean, how could you prove that, how could you prove, say, in one reality, the simulation has orchestrated, a non-player character, these kind of artificial intelligence kind of replications of you. How could you really prove that, there's different dimensions, and in one dimension that you're unaware of, the simulation has created an identical you, that has, committed a crime, done something, and to that dimension looks like you. In that dimension, someone that looks like you, the replicated version of you, could be caught on CTV, and unbeknownst to that dimension where that happens, you're just unable to tell that, to say it's not you. It's like being on planet Earth 1, on planet Earth 1, and I'm in this house number 21 Pollet, Halifax, West Yorkshire, United Kingdom, right? And then there's another kind of replicated planet out there that's a kind of a mirror of yourself, an identical you in another dimension, planet Earth 2. And it could be a kind of carbon copy of you, an identical you that the simulation has, made that replica, do something, commit a crime, do something where in that dimension, it could look like you. There could be evidence that, point to you. There could be, whatever crimes being committed. There could be CCTV. There could be absolutely, overwhelming amount of things that could, like, kind of fit you to the scene of a crime, but whatever the context. And the conscious thinking aware, Aaron, me, in planet Earth 1, is unaware of what's going on in planet Earth 2. And then when you go to sleep and wake up, the next morning, you could be in that dimension. You could now be in planet Earth 2 as a conscious thinking aware, Aaron, unbeknownst to what the simulations has created in that reality, a replicated world. You haven't done it, you've not committed no crime, you've not done anything, but the simulation might have created something. And you wake up in planet Earth 2 as a consciously thinking aware, Aaron. And in that reality, something could be orchestrated where you could get blamed for a crime, you could be framed for something. well, not even necessarily framed in that dimension. The simulation, the main source creation could actually create anything, to almost, prove you guilty. They could create to prove you guilty. When you've not committed no crimes, but the simulation could create it to look like that. It's very hard to explain. It's very hard to explain, like to give this feeling like a plausible type of. You're dealing with something so advanced. You're dealing with something so, and if you can simulate life and simulate different realities, and it's just very complicated to even explain the kind of multiverse and parallel worlds. It's very hard to explain the theory, like, and kind of like how there could be like 10 kind of identical realities, parallel worlds, and there could be different versions of you in each of them 10 replicated worlds, non-player characters, these kind of these programs where you wouldn't be able to tell, like you can't tell, can you? That it's not the conscious of thinking aware Aaron. You just can't tell. Anyway, because I believe I've been in kind of parallel worlds my entire life, like flitting from different realities, but the same reality, but a different reality, as in like this bedroom in 21 Pullet. This might be one part of the simulation, one dimension, and tomorrow I might wake up. I'm waking up to the same ceiling. I'm waking up to the same fucking house, the same town, the same people. Everything is identical, but it might not be that same reality as I was in the day before. And because of being sectioned in 2009, for, like under some form of investigation, like did, I just felt I was like under some form of investigation for something to do with a sexually transmitted disease being passed on to someone, unbeknownst to me. It's almost like being framed, being framed for something you've not done. But whatever that dimension I was in 2009, they must have believed our foundation to think I'd committed whatever they thought. It's like I go to see the psychiatrist, and it was just a routine type of. I believe it was a routine meeting, and I can't remember if I got a letter to say come to the. But I went to see the psychiatrist and the junior doctor. Asked me how many sexual relationships have I had between 2003 and 2000. Well, the girlfriend I had at the time, which was Kat. My ex-girlfriend. And between my ex-girlfriend and Kat. So between 2003 and 2008, how many sexual partners have you had between 2003 and 2008? And I said, none. And the way it was like asking me these questions, to me, it was visibly angry, like hostile, like really angry, hostile the way it was asking me. taking blood, but not telling me why not giving me a logical reason, behind why they're taking blood. And when the results came back from pathology, uh, he's talking about my white cells being raised around my immune system, and he asked me if I'd had a cold in recent days. This is 2008. My blood comes back and he's asking me if I had a cold recently. And I said no. So if my white cells were raised, around my immune system, and then that tells me if I had not been ill recently in them days, well, I must have had some form of internal infection. Anyway, it's very difficult to go into, and I almost feel in this simulated reality that my words are being used against me. Like I'm talking here, but I feel like in this simulation my words are being twisted and manipulated. To make me sound like I'm saying something else in this reality that could be used in another dimension, that could be presented, that people could hear and think I'm talking about one thing when I'm not. Unable to know that there's some kind of editing going on. Like there's some kind of editing going on within the simulation. It's almost like I feel like I can't speak honestly and really go into detail about things. There's so many things that I want to mention and names and times in my life that I feel I can't speak. I don't think anything is for my benefit. I just feel every time I speak it's because of 2009 being sectioned for asking questions about my health, to wanting to know why they're prying into my sexual history, lying about blood, talking about my immune system, asking me if I was concerned, like I was concerned about anything. It's well documented my psychiatric history when I first came under the psychiatrist in the year 2000. My psychiatric history is well documented. The paranoia about, a certain disease. So that's well documented. But almost in 2008, it's almost like, I felt like under some form of investigation. And being asked questions about my sexual history, they're taking blood and they're not giving me a logical reason why. They're talking about my white cells being raised, asking me if I'd had a cold, which I'd not had a cold, and thinking about it, if I'd not had a cold, I must have had some form of internal infection. Now, they didn't tell me that there was anything wrong. They didn't say your blood's come back and it's abnormal. It's showing it's we need to do further tests basically. I went to see a psychiatrist in 2008 and I requested a sexual health test. So it's almost like I feel I had this feeling about 2008 that some kind of mistaken identity. A friend, one of my brothers. Something of a coincidence that someone's got a sexually transmitted disease, the worst one, and they passed it on to someone, and I'm the one that's being blamed for it. My name's come up in some way, like the questions between 2000, the sexual relationships between 2003 and 2008, makes me think there's either something in between, or there was something wrong with me. I did have some kind of sexually transmitted disease, and it's something to do with my ex-girlfriend, and that's maybe possibly why I was asked between my ex-girlfriend and the girlfriend I got now. But no one's ever said anything. My ex-girlfriend is I've never heard, you'd hear. If she went to get it tested and it come back with something wrong with her, and then, why haven't I been told? It's something you'd hear about, it's something you would not know. It's like, why ask me a question if they know something's wrong? Why ask me questions about my sexual history if they've got knowledge and something that suggests that I have got something wrong with me? I was paranoid about the disease. That's why I came under the doctor in the year 2000, because I was paranoid about the virus. But I was paranoid about it. I didn't know that I couldn't have a sexual, encounter, like, if I really believed that I could pass, that type of disease on. Any type of disease. Syphilis, chlamydia, anything. So this is what is making me think that I've been flitting through different dimensions. Because I think, about, this theory, of someone passing on a sexually transmitted disease, and I'm the one that's, I don't know, like a coincidence, a friend who used my name who's got a sexually transmitted disease and passed it on. A person used my, a one night stand. But that theory doesn't make any sense to the questions from the junior doctor. How many relationships have you had between your ex-girlfriend and the girlfriend you've got now? It seems very direct. It's a very specific question. It's wanting to know, of other partners I could potentially have that could potentially be at risk, or had been at risk, or be at risk. So the thought of mistaken identity and, a friend, using my name to have a one night stand, it's very flawed. Whatever they think I did in 2008, right, whatever the questions were about, in my opinion, in that reality, in that dimension, they must have had good foundation. They must have had something that, made them think that I'd passed on a sexually transmitted disease. But I didn't hear anything. No doctor or psychiatrist in my secret time never said. And I got a section in 2009. I've had many blood tests and nothing's ever come back bad. It's very hard to put into chronological to make sense of any of this. My entire life is in question. The multiverse and parallel worlds is something that I'm not educated with. It's very hard to even begin to make sense of the chronology, the timelines. 2009. I wasn't going to leave, the questions alone. But, being asked the questions by the junior doctor, and, taking blood and talking about the white cells, which made me think I had some type of internal infection at that time. They didn't say, no further tests, nothing. And in 2009, prior, just probably about a week before being admitted, on the 14th of August 2009, I said I wasn't happy, and I started talking about getting in contact with the Secretary of State. Naive at the time to think that'd make a difference. But I was talking about getting in contact with the Secretary of State, and I was going to go to the very top of this. I didn't like, there was something not right. There was something very fucking suspicious. Now, where I'm not educated, I'm not fucking stupid. If something doesn't make logical sense, you can't ask a person a question and then, just say, oh, I'm just doing my job. For a person that's not educated but not stupid, it's not really logical, is it? Why are you asking that question? Oh, I'm just doing my job. Well, what's your job? Well, it's just my job. It's a job that I'm doing, and this is my job. So that's your answer. You're asking me questions about my sexual history. You're taking blood and not giving me a logical reason. You're talking about my white cells being raised and keep asking me if I'm concerned for any reason. But when you start asking me if I'm concerned, that makes me a little bit concerned. So I wasn't going to leave things alone. I was going to get to the bottom of it. I was going to get in contact with the highest office in the fucking land. And again, naive at the time. Naive. And then on the 14th of August, the situations, my mum and pa, this kind of argument that led to me mum phoning the psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist, and I'm not holding, there's no one to blame here. This is no one's fault. This is part of the simulated reality. This is part of, what reality is. It's why we was created. It's why It's why we are where we are today with quantum mechanics, and the multiverse theory is very much in the public domain. The film The Matrix, there's 3 Matrix films. Quantum mechanics and parallel worlds and the multiverse, and films have been made on this. Books have been wrote on this. PhD professors have wrote scientific papers on this. Nick Bostrom, the philosopher, has wrote a paper on this. The simulation hypotheses. These aren't delusional beliefs. These aren't delusions of grandeur. These are very plausible things in life. Only from my perspective, these things are an interest. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I've got a first-hand account at this. I don't care for simulation and the Matrix. This is not an obsession. This is based on my life. This is based on facts. Well, facts that I can't prove, but that's the fucking point. This is my point I'm trying to make. Whatever they thought I did in 2009, they must have felt justified. They must have thought I'd done something and had good reason to think so. In 2009, like I said, prior to being on me, arguing with my ma, me and my ma, fall out. I don't want to go into detail because it's very fucking difficult. It's very fucking difficult to talk about these things. That's what's so fucking 2012 talking about 2009. It's not fucking easy when my mom's a good person, my dad's a good person, my family are good fucking people. People are good. People at times, psychiatrists, are good people. It's a system that's fucking bad. It's a simulation that's fucking bad. But 2009, prior to being married, fall out with my mum. Me and my mum get into an argument on the 13th of August 2009. And then the 14th of August, 1 o'clock, the doctors, the psychiatrists, the mental health team basically, my mum and pa on the door. And I said, no, you're not coming in. You're not coming in. Yeah, I mean, come on. I'm not fucking stupid. They're asking, prying me sexually, so taking blood. Something's a bit, like off. Something doesn't seem right. Do you think you're going to trust people? You really think you're going to, let people... Are you going to feel it open your door? When you've got every reason not to trust people and to think something is a bit off, something not fucking right. When you're not a fucking idiot, when you're not, mentally ill. Suffering from some delusion where people give a fuck about you and want to treat you and make sure you get better. I'm not naive to what the government can do in situations. Now, that's not being theatrical, that's a fact. I didn't want to open the door to let the doctor in because I didn't know where we're fucking going and what they were going to do. I'm talking about going to the top of the tree to the Secretary of State, and now I've got fucking psychiatrists on my door, I've got my ma and pa on the door. How the fuck am I supposed to think? But I did let the doctor in. My dad said, let him in. So I let the I'll let the psychiatrist in. I don't want to name names. I feel bad about naming. I don't want to name names. Which probably makes no fucking sense because surely, when you don't name names, but I just feel bad when they fucking. But he came in, watched this about the Secretary of State, and I just said, well, I'm not happy with the questions I've been asked. There's something not right. You lied about taking blood. I'm not leaving it. I want to get to the bottom of why you're asking me personal questions about my sexual history and why you're lying about, you're talking about my immune system and you're asking me if I'm concerned for any reason. So that's it. I'm not mentally ill and, I'm not suicidal. I have no thoughts of harming others. I'm taking my medication for what fucking good that was. As I'm taking my medication, I'm not suicidal, don't want to harm others. I'm just concerned about things that you're asking me that you're not giving me a logical reason for the questions. Now, I'm sorry, if you go to the GP and the GP, asks you a question, there's a reason behind that. If I say, what do you mean by that question, doctor? He's not going to say, I'm just doing my job. All right, you're just doing your job. That explains it. I'll go on then. So I said that. I'm taking my medication for what fucking use. Looking back, I'm not suicidal. I have no thoughts of harming others. I'm just concerned that you're asking me questions that don't fit into schizophrenia, into psychiatry, into mental health. Now could you please leave? And then he left. And then there was a knock at the door. I looked through my PPO, being one of the chosen ones. I'm looking through my PPO and I see the police officers. So then I went to the kitchen, got a knife and I slit my wrist. And they put that on the reason I got sectioned. That's fucking incredible, isn't it? They actually used that, in their fucking argument for me being sectioned. Slit wrist. No, let's get the fucking story right. Right? I wasn't suicidal. I had no thoughts of harming myself. None. And certainly no thoughts of harming others. But I had no thoughts of harming anybody. Sorry, I had no thoughts of harming myself. Not one thought slit my wrist. When the doctor came in, and talks about the Secretary of State, I told him, I'm not suicidal, I have no thoughts of harming others, I'm taking medication. When the police knock on my door, I'm thinking, right, they're taking me somewhere, what's going to happen? So I slit my wrist then. Not on my own, isolated in my own house with no one around, in some kind of mental relapse, in some kind of psychotic fucking episode. I slit my wrist when I didn't know where they were going and what they were going to do. Anyway, briefly, I need to. It's very fucking. It's tiring. It really takes it out of me. And I don't like to speak with a certain tone. It's very difficult. But I was sectioned for 6 months. But I believe potentially that could have been and this is my point I'm trying to make. I believe that was some other dimension in the matrix, in the simulation. It's like whatever they thought I did, whatever the question, that's what's so bizarre. Because the questions, the junior doctor in this hostile, it was visibly angry when he was asking me these questions. Whatever he thought I'd done, it was visibly angry. But no one ever said, your blood's come back, it's abnormal. No one's ever said, you passed on a sexually transmitted disease. I was paranoid about the disease. It's almost like that's a different reality to, like kind of waking up in hospital, Saturday the 14th of August. Like it's a different reality where because I've been sectioned countless times and I'm not mentally ill. I've never been sectioned for being mentally ill. I've never been sectioned for having a mental disorder, being assessed from 2009. 2005 I was admitted under section 2. That was a genuine section in 2005. No, in 2005 the other side, thinking about things and, thoughts getting the better of me. 2005 was a genuine admission. When they assessed me and I got a section, put on a section 2, that was a genuine admission. I can look back at that, I can think about that, and I can say the doctors at that time sectioned me because they believed, in their opinion, I was suffering with some kind of, psychotic episode, something of a delusional thoughts. So 2005 is the only one I can look back on and think that was a genuine admission. That wasn't corrupt, that wasn't a conspiracy, that wasn't part of a cover-up, that was nothing to do with hepatitis or any other disease for that matter. That was a genuine, admission. But 2009 wasn't a genuine admission. I mean, I feel like I was, being sectioned to silence me, to keep me quiet, to label me a paranoid schizophrenic, so then anything I do say, I'm not taken seriously. No one's going to believe a paranoid schizophrenic against psychiatrists and parents, are they? I mean, you've got anything to say about the government? Well, all kinds of stuff can happen. All kinds of stuff, discredit you, that type of stuff, section you under the mental health act, imprison you. There's all kinds of things that governments do to silence people, to suppress things, to stop their agendas, all kinds of stuff. Death included in some cases. And I almost feel like I'm going to get set up, I'm going to be framed for something, I'm going to be arrested for something. I've had these thoughts, for a long time, that I'm going to get framed and I'm going to get set up. And if I'm in the multiverse, if I'm going through different dimensions, the simulation could create like a non-player character, in one dimension that looks like me. You won't be able to tell the difference. And then, say, when I wake up the next morning, I'm in that dimension where they created whatever, unbeknownst to me. But in that dimension, they're going to, with foundation, believe that I've committed a crime because they're not going to think any otherwise when, there's so many things that a simulation could create in that reality. So I'm doing these little videos now just to document it, and I don't think it makes one bit of difference, but it'll help me sleep at night. It'll just make me feel a little bit more comfortable that, if that ever day comes when I get a knock at the door, Aaron Lynch, I'm arresting you on suspicion of, and I'm thinking, what do you mean? Because that day might come. 2009 I got a section. 2012 I got a section for talking about 2009. In 2012, I was talking about 2000. I wasn't on Facebook in 2009. 2012, I was talking about what led to the section in 2009, talking about, the HIV and hepatitis virus and, being asked these questions about my sexual history. I was talking about a cover-up. And unfortunately, plastering my fucking mum's fucking name all over Facebook. Talking about fucking health professional psychiatrists. At that time, I felt justified. At that time, in 2012, I felt justified to do that. Looking back, it's difficult. So it's 2012, a section for talking about 2009. And then 2016, the noise dispute with the next door neighbour, false complaints that I was playing my music loud again, all part of this process. 2018, 2019, never been section 1 since 2005 for any other reason apart from part of the agenda, part of reptilians, part of the matrix, the simulation. And I do anticipate the next event. I don't know if I'm going to get sectioned again for something. I don't know if I'm in a dimension where a lot of this is not known, and the dimension that I'm in don't know about any of this. It could raise concern. I believe I'm being monitored. I believe there's an audience aspect to reality. That there's an audience aspect that people get to kind of watch you, a bit like the Truman Show. It's why the Truman Show exists. Everything in life, without digressing, everything in life, every belief system, it's an aspect, it's an element of the main source of creation. The Truman Show, is, in my opinion, is an aspect in the simulation, but not necessarily in all dimensions. Some dimension there may be an audience aspect to reality where people get to watch you as a kind of form of Truman Show, but that might not be the case in all the dimensions. I could be in one dimension one day where there's an audience aspect, And then the next day I could be in a dimension that there's no audience aspect. You know, I'm speaking about these things, and the people say in different dimensions, they might be doing different things. They might be, you know, have different technological capabilities, different projects, you know, alliance with the reptilians and other ET groups. It might not be the same in each dimension. There might be so many different things in each dimension that in one dimension some things might be happening, other dimensions things might not be happening. So with me talking about all of this, I could potentially be in a dimension where I'm being monitored, you know, and I could be saying things that they don't have a clue about, that it's just not them. So I almost feel I could be admitted for that reason. I could be monitored, there could be, I don't know, a manipulated situation of, say, somebody's putting a concern. And there's no evidence. You don't have to provide evidence of who's put the concern in. Confidentiality is that. Someone could put in a I could get a knock on the door, you know, and the doctors could be there. All right, I'm in love with just, well, I don't think a psychiatrist would say love. Health professional maybe, but a psychiatrist wouldn't say love. But I could have the mental health team there. Aaron, can we come in? And I'd be like, why? Why? Well, what are you doing here? We just want to come in and just talk to you. Right? Why? I don't understand. Well, we've had a call, and someone who is a bit concerned for your well-being, and they're just, you know, so we're just coming out. Well, it's called. Well, we can't say. Well, why not? Well, confidentiality. So if someone cares about me, right? Because I've had no text to ask if I'm alright. No one's phoned to say if I'm okay, right? So if someone's phoned you to say they're concerned because they're concerned about my well-being, you can't tell me for confidentiality reasons. And you're telling me someone cares. Well, this person who cares, right? This person that cares me so much hasn't rang me to talk to me. I've had no conversation. The only conversations I have is with my fucking self. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you know. The only conversation I have, really, right, is with myself. And what I'm... if they can't get you one way, they'll get you another. You say that and they're going to fucking section you. It's a very good point, is that. What I mean is... is psychiatrist, right? No one's phoned me to say they care, you know, to ask if I'm okay, where I might have been talking about Martians and all that type of stuff. No one's phoned me and, you know, I'm talking about being a prophet of God and an extraterrestrial from outer space where they'd be concerned, and that's why they phoned you. So whoever cares about me doesn't care because they haven't phoned me to speak to me to see if I'm... Anyway, do come in. please come in. So there doesn't have to be a reason behind why the mental health team could come out. If I'm in this, like, a certain dimension, you know, and there's different kind of, like, things that are done, and I could be saying things that could be a concern. I might have been in a dimension where I'm talking about things they're doing, you know, and they might be a bit concerned by that, you know, by thinking, oh shit, he's fucking, what if he starts talking to people and people start believing it? Which is very daft, isn't it? Which is very daft. No one would ever listen to a word I've got to say. I'm labelled as a paranoid schizophrenic. No one listens to what I say. No one's going to take me seriously. And the things I talk about as well are in the realm of things that are in the public domain. I'm not saying I'm a prophet of God or anything that would, you know, be deemed as delusional. I'm talking about very plausible, you know, theories in life. I'm talking about things that exist in the public domain. The things I talk about are not delusional. That fall into the category, I mean, maybe they're a little bit way out, you know, there. But in some dimensions, you might talk about something that, you know, they feel the need to address. Anyway, I'm going to quickly sum up. I mean, I can't sum up, really. But I'm just going to quickly end this. I'm doing these recordings now because I honestly think, right, it's quite possible, not believe, not saying it will, just a possibility that the next event will either be another section, right, for not the right reasons. I could be, arrested and charged with some crime. There's so many things that could happen with it, because this has been going on since 2009. Being sectioned and 2016 is what the noise dispute. And this is why I think there's an audience aspect, and why I believe part of why being flitting from different dimensions and parallel worlds. Because the noise dispute in 2015 was the noise dispute. 2015 was the noise dispute, which led to the 2016's admission. And it was an armed siege, because again, I was being sectioned for their agenda, for their whatever they were doing at the time. Noise complaints were being put in, and I wasn't playing my music. False complaints were being put in about my music. I agreed with the neighbour to play in the times, she was at work. I was playing within those times. I actually said, to resolve the issue, like to make sure that there's a mutual type understanding, of me playing my music. Because the last time I looked, the noise kind of, laws, right? The noise laws and housing association laws, it's not illegal to play music. It's the excessive amount, it's the time of the day. It's late at night, it's prolonged, hours. I used to play my music, like an hour just to do a video to upload to Facebook. And I don't know anyone who can play guitar for 10, 15 hours where it would become like this annoyance. And let's say I was playing it for 10 hours and, there was a noise complaint. I still wouldn't do that again. I said I would apologise. I say I do apologise. And then because of the first noise complaint letter I got from housing, I went round to see the neighbour. And again, I don't want. It sounds very stupid, this, but I feel like I feel bad for like making it personal when I don't blame anyone. I don't want to speak about names, especially when I'm speaking like this with this tone. It's very difficult, to speak in a. I just don't want to mention people's names, being a 44-year-old dickhead, and the tone, in the tone I speak. I don't want to get personal and almost pass judgment, all that type of stuff. It's fucking stupid. But I went round and we had a mutual agreement. I said, if you can tell me the times you're out, at work, I'll play within them times, and then when I know you're home, right, I won't play my music. No other neighbour could hear my music. There was no other in the beginning, there was no other complaints. In the beginning, the first noise complaint letter, there was no other complaints. No one could hear no other neighbours. The one diagonal, the houses across the street was too far, and I was playing within the day. So we mutually had an agreement of playing within a certain time when she was at work. And that is the only times I played. And I was still getting noise complaints put in. There was still noise complaints, being put in. And I'm thinking, I'm playing with the times, she's at work. It's like, I don't understand. Why am I getting a second letter? And then the housing officer came out to talk about it. And I said, I'm playing with the times that she's at work. I don't understand why this is fucking going on. And then someone from some restorative justice council, some mediator, some person that is something of a storyteller, she gets involved to mediate between me and John, which is incredible. I've actually got a recording of that conversation where, towards the end of the dispute, towards the end of the situation, I was talking to the woman from Restorative Justice Council, and she said it doesn't matter if she's in or out. Right. So I can't play my music, right, even if she's out of the fucking building. If that were the case, no one could ever have a barbecue, no one could ever have the music on a Friday night. No one could ever play music because it doesn't matter if the person's in or out. This is what I'm up against, the logic, this is part of this fucking process. It doesn't matter if she's in or out. But I do find one thing clever at that time. I do find one thing clever from whatever dimension I was in at that time, right? Now, this was an act of genius, I think, right? There was no other complaints apart from the next door neighbours, which were false, right? Made up. I personally think it has something to do with the reptilians in the vicinity, negative energy. You know, the reptilians' need for negative energy, you know, putting me through great amounts of stress. You know, you're not going to get more stressed than someone putting accusations against you, and it's just not true. If that's not going to get you frustrated and get you a little bit, like, pissed off, I don't know what is. When you're not doing anything wrong, and someone's saying you are, and you've got fucking housing, you've got everyone, even friends and family at the time. I had friends telling me to put my earphones in. You know, I had another friend saying the next door neighbour was an elderly lady. Making out, there's this elderly frail lady next door, and I'm banging out some fucking thrash metal, drinking cans of fucking Stella, and whacking them on my fucking head. And making out she's an elderly lady, a frail elderly lady. Like I'm this demonic fucking next door, like neighbour from fucking hell. People telling me to put my earphones in. Do what they tell you. Right, so when you invite friends around for a drink on a Friday night, right, and you're drinking your vodka or your cans of Stella or your Lambrina or your Frosted Jacks, right, you're telling me that all your friends that you have around, you all wear earphones when you got your music on. What about a barbecue in the summer? Right, you got a barbecue, right, someone's making burgers, flicking the sausages, everyone's getting pissed, shirts off, fucking, Union Jack on your tattled on the England flags everywhere, music blaring out. You're telling me you all wear fucking earphones? So I play my music, I'm about to wear earphones, you play your music, and that's fucking different. Anyway, the section in 2016, there was an armed siege, police finally come in, armed siege, the special forces of the police brigade. Right, so they come in, I'm launched into my guitar, not personal, it's not, I don't think things are personal, but I'm launched into the guitar, I've got a wound on my head, and I'm sat down on the floor, the copper puts the handcuffs on me, and I said, why are you doing this? Because I'm in a state of fucking disbelief. Why are you doing this? And he said, it's what you've been doing. So I think, I look back to that and I think, what do you mean what I've been doing? And this is why I think there's like an audience aspect to the situation. Like people have this kind of, where they can watch you in have a view of where you are, in your bedroom, in the kitchen, wherever. So there's an audience aspect. And I feel when he said it's what you've been doing, I almost feel like he must have seen something or heard something that, that he thought I'd done. And that's why it's what you've been doing. I don't know. It's all very. I can't put things into a chronological order. It's impossible to put things into that wouldn't make sense. It's impossible. You're talking about the multiverse and parallel worlds and reptilians, all these things, archons and ETs having the ability to change human form, to change any form like a chameleon does. Almost like entities that have the ability to take your physical form. To speak like you, to act like you, to talk like you, where you wouldn't be able to tell. It's impossible to even come up with a plausible theory for my entire life, and at certain times and certain points where I could have transcended to a different part of the simulation. It's exhausting. When I talk to people like Cap, it's exhausting for me. When I talk about people about all of this, it gives them a fucking headache. And I can understand. I can understand why a person thinks, for fuck's sake, Karen, give it a rest. If I had me talking for 2 minutes, I would have stopped fucking listening, in the first minute. I would have stopped fucking listening in the first minute. So I'm doing this little recording now, right? I'm going to make this the last video as well because I don't honestly believe I need to do anything else, really. I'm just going to end this and then I'm going to just I'm just gonna not. I'm not gonna do this. This type of recording again. I believe it makes no difference. I believe it makes no difference whatsoever. You can't narrate the program. It's impossible. Whatever the system creates and does, well, you're not. No one's proving anything in the Matrix, basically. I'm just doing this because I feel I could get sectioned again, under false. Not because I'm suffering with a mental relapse or I'm delusional or, I'm taking my medication, I'm not suicidal, I have no thoughts of harming others, I don't feel like anyone's out to get me. So I don't think the criteria to having a mental relapse, and I don't believe I'm a god, I don't believe I'm a prophet of God, I don't believe I'm reptilian royalty, I don't believe that, I'm here on some space fucking mission. I don't think I'm travelling through different dimensions to as some kind of Trojan horse, to change the course of history or anything like that. I'm just in a very unusual situation that is impossible to really explain. I can't prove anything like simulation and different dimensions. How can you? I'm just doing this so I can sleep at night. So if I get the knock, I'm arresting you on suspicion of. What do you mean? Come with us. Why? Just come with us. We'll talk to you down the station. But don't worry, we'll not give you a good kicking. Anyway, that's it. No, that's not it. I'm gonna quickly just end it in a sensible fucking way. I feel I could be arrested for something I'm not done. But to the people arresting me, it might look like I have done something. All the evidence might lead to say me committing a crime. When in reality, it's a main source of creation in a dimension that has created a replica of me, right? And made that replicator do something, and then I could wake up in that dimension where that has been created, unbeknownst to the people in that dimension, unbeknownst to, say, a police officer who's coming to arrest me for something they think I've done, unbeknownst to them, all the evidence could lead to me. There could be fingerprints, there could be DNA, there could be, CTV, there could be all kinds of things where the police officers, could think I've actually done it, and they're not going to think otherwise. They're not going to believe any parallel world shit. They're not going to believe, multiverse. It's just not going to be believed. It's impossible, especially when they're going to be part of the program. They're going to be limited to having critical thinking to be able to even contemplate that being plausible, to even contemplate that's possible. So they're going to have a limited, capacity to, it'll be controlled, just like life itself. It's a computer program. There's a narrative. There's a storyboard. So I'm doing this so I can sleep comfortably. So I get a knock on the door, and that happens, at least I've got some form of, well, listen to this. It might not fucking help, it probably won't help, but just listen. I'm talking about these things. Do I sound like, would this be fucking premeditation? All this is premeditation. I'm sorry, I don't know any fucking person out there who's, a criminal or whatever, thinking this fucking far ahead. So I'm doing this, if I get a knock on the door, I can think, right, okay, here we go. You're arresting me for something, right, well, I know I'm not doing anything, I know that I'm not committed any crime, but, whatever you think, you've got a good reason to, but it's not me, right, it's a simulation, it's a different dimensions, right, and that's basically it. Well, that's been mentally sorted out, you people, this morning. Do you know, I think for this process, the more, each stage I seem to go through, it brings more awareness, my intelligence increases, I gain more insight into myself, more so. I've got good self-awareness, I've got, insight, increase, everything kind of increases. And when I was talking to the housing this morning, and I should basically, going through the direct debit and, numbers, like when you were talking and then when, like, talking about numbers, it's almost like all the numbers seem to fucking connect. And I think, I'm overthinking things. Like, why do all these numbers, like, seem to mean something, like, like, I think what it is, I'm just being shown the program. I mean, that's what the program is, basically. The simulation, code, numbers. It's what we are. It's the properties behind reality. Numbers. And I believe that's part of why I was given a lottery fever. Working out the numbers and equations and just bombarding me with numbers. Numbers just keep bombarding me with numbers. I seem to watch, like, there's nothing I can't watch without thinking the Matrix is behind it. This continued kind of provocation on me, this continuous psychological, like, bombardment of, repetitive stuff and numbers where I feel like these numbers, like, connect, and they do connect. All numbers connect. I mean, that's what the Matrix is. It's what we are as dates of birth. How many letters in our names. Now, it's not overwhelmingly obvious. Like my name, Aaron Lynch, 9 letters, born 9th of March. Just as examples that I know. Mark Zuckerberg, 14 letters, 14th of May. Stephen Hawking, 14 letters, I believe died the 14th of March. Albert Einstein, 14 letters, born the 14th of March. And so on and so on and so on. But there'll be many examples like that. Or should I say, there'll be many things, there'll be many names where it doesn't show that. Where a person might have 8 letters in the name, and they might be born on the 16th or whatever number. So there's loads of things where a person might say, yeah, but this person, has, 8 letters in the name, but they're born on the 16th. It can't be overwhelmingly obvious. But there is a connection between names, dates of birth, deaths, significant moments in people's lives, like Saddam Hussein, 13 letters, arrested 13th of December 2003, during the Second Gulf War, the Iraq War. There's loads of things like that. Like Charles Darwin, 13 letter. Like, two significant people in Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was Robert Fitzroy, which was Charles Darwin's navigator, and friend, without sounding disrespectful. These things, you got to respect what you're saying. So Robert Fitzroy was the navigator of the Voyager on Charles Darwin's travel around the world, basically, at the beginning of evolution. The Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands is where evolution began, really. 13 Galapagos Islands. And what gives Charles Darwin the theory on species, evolving from species to species, mutations, slight variations, was the 13 finches. So we have Charles Darwin, 13, Robert Fitzroy, his navigator, confidant, friend, 13 letters, the 13 Galapagos Islands, and the 13 finches, which was the evolution, the kind of beginning of the evolution thought. And also Robert Malthus. I think his birth name was Thomas Malthus, but he prefers to be called Robert Malthus. But also, Robert Malthus, 13 letters, born the 13th of February, 1766, I believe. So, numbers represent people's, how many letters are in the name, dates of birth, death, and historical moments, iconic moments, historical landmarks, whether that's war or politics. Absolutely everything. The only pattern I've come across, really, or I've been given, I'm not working this out, the fact that I'm able to write it with substance tells me somebody created that to begin with. And if someone created it, I'm not working it out, am I? I can't ask a question and then create the answer. It was there to begin with. So 13 and 17 also, and 23. The pattern I've seen with a lot of things, with substance and by probability, it's more than just what people call a coincidence. By probability, 13, 17 and 23. What I find interesting, when I looked into this a long time ago, 13, 17 and 23 are all prime numbers. There seems to be a connection with the simulation and the structure, the main structure of the computer code are based on prime numbers. 19 is a very significant number. 29 also is a very, both prime numbers. I've actually got a reptilian coin, not a physical coin, an image, a picture, with a reptilian type of character on the coin, in 1929. And the lottery theory, that's how the lottery theory began. Noticing the pattern of 1929 coming out, quite a pattern of 1929 coming out. And that's where the lottery theory began, and all that writing and equations and trying to, discover the golden ticket. But that's how the lottery theory began, and I believe the lottery theory came in 2017. Because I noticed a pattern of 19... I didn't notice it. I was controlled to, just like everything else. Like the theory on the number 13. How that began. Times on receipts when Kathy used to come home, from the supermarket. I'd look at the time, and I'm not obsessed with this stuff. Numerology, numbers, matrix. I've got better things to be doing. These things aren't an interest of mine. I'm not interested in numbers, or I don't really have any interest in number 13. It's something that I've never really actively searched for out of interest. completely just because I'm some mad conspiracy theories. No. I just noticed, like the receipts, the time on the receipts, it'd be 13 something, and then other times it'd be 13. You know, my brother told me to watch Sopranos, and because, concentration levels, I don't really like, long drawn out TV series. I prefer an hour and a half to 2 hour film where you're getting it in a shorter context, but you're getting the fucking same kind of picture, if you understand. These long drawn out TV series, it's anyway. My brother told me to watch Sopranos, and anyway, I said no, I don't have time for that. He said, no, watch it. Honestly, you won't be disappointed. And I said, I bet the number fucking 13 comes up in it. I said, how many episodes in the first series? And he said 13. I thought, well, there you go, 13, here we go again. And then when I watched the first episode, it was AJ, the Godfather, the main Tony Soprano's son. It was his birthday, and it was, I think it was his 13th birthday, I believe. Or, it was either, and my memory does deceive me. It was either his 13th birthday or he had the number 13 t-shirt on. And that's what happened. That's what used to happen a lot as well. Watching films and stuff. T-shirts with number 13 on. Anyway, the point of this is, times on tickets. I used to count my cigarettes. And every time I counted them, there seemed to be 13. Completely random times. Completely different times of the day. I just randomly count how many cigarettes I've got, and there were 13 in the packet. Kath would come up on work, and I'd say, count how many cigarettes you've got, and she'd count them, and there'd be 13. Me and Kath, and my brother and his partner went to a friend's house for a drink one night, and my brother's partners sat on the floor. I said to her, count how many cigarettes you got in your packet. I bet there's 13. Just completely random times this. And, she'd count them and she smiled. I said, there's 13 in there. She went, yeah. So, anyway, it had to lay the foundation for what it gave me, basically. It had to relentlessly peck at my head. Times on videos in the context of religion or evolution. Just watching them out of interest, actually. Just watching videos on religion and evolution, just kind of different videos. Not because I was research, wanting to find anything at the number 13, just out of interest. And the kind of length on videos would be 13 and just bombarding me with a 13, like you're pecking at my head. Now people going through the experiencing this, it's not unknown, is it? People see 444 or 555, repetitive numbers. If you Google it, people talk about angel numbers. The angels are guiding you. This is angel numbers. That's the known information on the internet. And number 13, well, it's pretty basic, really. The knowledge on the 13 is, like, it being an unlucky number. It's in some cultures, it's a lucky number. So you're getting basic information. When you Google number 13, you just getting your kind of, like, traditional Halloween 13 and Friday the 13 and that type of stuff. No 13th floor and, just what's, kind of known, basically. So this bombardment of the number 13 and, pecking in my head. And I knew it meant something, but it wasn't showing me what it meant. I just knew that it was a bit more than, just completely random times. The number 13 seemed to come up. I knew it meant something, but it wasn't showing anything. I used to post on Facebook because where this is not an obsession of mine or something I've searched for, something I'm interested in. It did get to a point of me thinking it means something. Now what it means, I didn't know at the time because it wasn't showing anything substantial. When you do a video talking to people saying, look, Cass come up on work 13 on the receipt, on the bus time 13. You say, oh, I watched Tony Soprano and it was his son's 13th birthday. I'm watching films, you sound crackers. You sound crackers because there's nothing to see, is there? There's nothing to see. Times on receipts. Tony Soprano's kid's 13th birthday. Yeah. T-shirts with number 13 on. Are you okay, Aaron? Are you taking your medication? You seem a little bit obsessed with number 13. So I kind of got to the point and thought, like, no, I started posting about it. Because you can't see anything. It's not science, it's not a theory. It's just me going about number 13 on tickets and the rest. You just sound crackers. And then I watched Zero Dark 30, the film about capturing Osama bin Laden. And my thoughts, I say thoughts, not my thoughts, I don't believe. In fact, this couldn't have been my thought. I mean, where do thoughts come from? Where do thoughts... So many thoughts and theories in life, and so many books wrote by authors, individual authors writing God knows how many books. You're telling me all that information, words, manifest within the mind? No. So what Zero Dark 30 about the capture of Osama bin Laden and all that type of stuff, and something count how many letters in Osama bin Laden's name. So I did, and there were 13. So I thought, right, okay, right. I didn't think much of it, to be honest. Even though the number 13, it wasn't enough at this point. And then I wanted to try and understand why the Iraq war was illegal. So I wanted to educate myself on that. And then that's what made me count Saddam Hussein, 13 letters. And then I continued watching the documentary, and then realised he got arrested on the 13th of December 2003. Now I'm thinking, where's this going? What's this about? I thought very interesting. And then I started, watching religion. Again, not searching for this. Even after Saddam Hussein 13 and, arrested on the 13th of December 2003. I was just watching things out of interest, and I started watching religion. Like, it's well known, with religion, with Jesus and the 12 disciples, 13. It's well known with religious, like number 13 comes up. Like Jesus and the 12 disciples, that's well documented. But what's not documented, what I've never seen, is words and numbers. Words and numbers. How many letters are in certain words? Like the Last Supper. The most significant event in biblical text has got to be the Last Supper and the crucifixion, but the Last Supper is important, and the Last Supper has 13 letters. And then Judas Iscariot, the betrayer of Jesus, his disciple that betrayed him, 13 letters. Judas' father, Simon Iscariot, if I pronounce that right, his father Simon, also 13 letters. So now it's showing me something. And then it went from there, and then, Charles Darwin 13, Robert Fitzroy 13, Robert Malthus. Robert Malthus give Charles Darwin the thought of survival of the fittest. Robert Malthus' books, the principles of population control, the three major things that cause population decline: war, famine, disease. Robert Malthus, which is done. I'm sure I'm not educating people. I don't believe I'm educating anyone. Right? I'm just speaking. Well, I mean, why change the record? But I would like to listen to some. I would like to listen to some new music rather than the same music all the time. But anyway, Robert Malthus, 13 letters, born the 13th of February, 13 inches from 13 Glassblog Islands. Took Charles Darwin, 13 months to write on the origins of species. I believe Charles Darwin's father as well either was born on the 13th of November or died on the 13th of November. I believe he died on the 13th of November. I wish I could, remember these things. I respect you people. I don't like to speak without having a little bit of respect for what I'm talking about. But in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No. So numbers connect. There's loads. There's tons. I mean, I've got loads. Not my writings through this process that the simulation has given me. The creators, or whichever dimension, whoever's behind all this. Whoever created the simulation has given me, I'm not working this out. No one works anything out. Where do you think knowledge comes from? We don't invent things, we discover things. I've seen on Facebook this science page, a very reputable science page, asking the question, was maths invented or discovered? Now to me, when I hear that, was maths invented or discovered, you can't invent something and use that as a tool to calculate something that existed before that tool was created. It's scientifically impossible. It goes against all logic, it goes against all reason, it goes against the laws of physics, the laws of common sense. You can't invent something and use that to calculate the past. You can't use it as a tool to calculate your surroundings. You can't make something up and use that to calculate something that was there before. It's impossible. Everything is kind of, come on, mathematics, invented. No. Discovered, because it's what we are. We are mathematics, we are numbers. Like, it's like the discoveries, it's like with simulation theory. And I'm sorry if I sound arrogant, because I'm really not, because I haven't got a clue about anything. The little bit of knowledge I know, is just that, a little bit. But simulation theory and the answers, proving it, is not in some, quantum mechanics theory. It's not in some mathematical equation. It's not in some theoretical, physics. It's not. It's us. It's ourselves. That's where the answers are. People are looking too far up in the sky. People are looking in too complicated areas. It's simple. It's us, and it's always been us. It's always been there. It's us. It's our dates of birth. It's our names. It's moments in our lives, your key moments. It could be the birth of your child. It could be the day you get married, the day you move into your house, the day you buy your first car, the day you graduate. It's iconic key moments in our lives. Just like Margaret Thatcher always gets a mention, and rightly so. But Margaret Thatcher being born on the 13th of October 1925. The first female Prime Minister of Britain. Now, you can't get any more significant than being the first female Prime Minister of Britain, can you? I mean, it's very sad we seem to applaud that, like it's a great achievement, like it's something to recognise that. Oh, well done, because you're a woman. It annoys me that. It annoys me why we celebrate these things more than we say celebrate. Anyway, about digressing. But European Union 13, United Nations 13, the Middle East 13, United Kingdom 13, West Yorkshire 13, District 13. Where I feel like, I'm watching films and dates and, kind of dates have been, it's a documentary that I'm watching. I was watching one this morning, Al Capone. So many numbers seem to resonate, like almost I felt connected to the numbers, but I'm not. It's just, through this process, watching things and understanding, numbers is what connects all of us. Numbers is what connects everything. So it's not that I'm personally connected to it. I mean we all are. I phoned Skyrology to sort my rent out today, and I'm paying fortnightly to try and keep on top of my water rates. And she said it's $16.44. Now I think 16. It's a number that I've spoken about a lot. The number 16. How many times have I spoke about the number 16 through this process? And I don't like to stop smoking on certain dates. And number 16 is a number I don't like to stop smoking on. I've got these little, these little kind of routines and rituals and that type of stuff. And 16 is a number that I try and keep away from. Like, I don't want to stop smoking on 16. because I feel like I don't have, I feel like I don't have a chance. But saying that, I don't think it matters what number I stop on. I don't think you've got a chance, no matter what number. I think if numbers didn't exist, you couldn't even stop smoking. But number 16 was anyway. I'm gonna nip that in the bud because I'm going to areas now where circumstantial, so completely irrelevant. You can't put certain things into a fever. It's interjection. It's very subjective. It's very individual. Don't let your own personal things enter the fever. Numbers is what connects us. Numbers. How many letters there are in our names. Historical, iconic moments. I mean, Keir Starmer. You know, where we are today with politics and the kind of threat of nuclear war. Keir Starmer, born the 2nd of September 1962. Now, when I think of 2nd of September, I think about the end of the Second World War, 1945. And 62, the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 between the Soviet Union and the Americans is the closest it's been to an all, mind you, in the 80s is what it was close. 60s and 80s, the two main points where it was very close to an all-out nuclear war. And Keir Starmer, being born in 1962 on the 2nd of September, links to where we are today with political disputes and Russia and Ukraine. I mean, Vladimir Putin, 13 letters. There's also loads of representatives with the 17 with Vladimir Putin, like with Bashar al-Assad and Putin's alliance and his alliance in the Syrian civil war. Bashar al-Assad, 13 letters. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because I'm either preaching this quiet, you've either heard this before, or you're not going to give a shit. I'm anticipating the next situation from the simulation. What they're going to create, I'm not too sure. I don't know, it could be anything. It could be anything, it could be all kind, it could be something really bad, it could be something, it could be something really bad for all I know. I mean, I'm anticipating something else. From 2009 there's been something. From being admitted in 2009, 2012 talking about 2009, and then 2015 noise dispute, and there's always been something. Why is it going to stop now? I'm a philosopher of life. I'm a realist. I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. I'm so defeated and so bombarded with negativity on a daily basis. It's very difficult to have hope. It's very difficult to have hope when you've almost been shown hope doesn't exist. It's just a manipulative word to give people a false sense of security on what life is really about. For me, what makes more sense is having a quiet day, concentrating on things I can make better, like my finances, cutting down my smoking, doing a bit of cleaning. I've done a bit of cleaning today. What day is it today? I do believe it's the 7th. 7th of the 10th, 2024. So I've done a bit of cleaning today, just trying. I mean, the house is filthy. The house, I don't know how it got to this stage, and I'm not a man. I'm not a man in any shape or form. I'm a boy. For a lad, you don't really keep on top of your cleanliness, do you? Especially when you're bombarded by all kinds of thoughts on reptilians and the Matrix and all these kind of sinister, disturbing things that you think is part of reality. I'm either going to get my duster out and do a bit of cleaning, am I? Motivation. I'm not lazy. I just like motivation. Just it gets to a point where, but it's got to a point. Even I think the film can't get to this point. There's something anyway. I'm gonna need that in the bud because I'm gonna sound crackers. I'm gonna sound crackers. I am anticipating the next situation. I don't know if I'm going to get sectioned again. I don't know if there's going to be a knock on the door by the police and I'm going to get arrested for something that they think I've done in this kind of parallel multi-dimension, world where the simulation can create another Aaron, make Aaron do whatever they like, and then transcend me to that dimension where they've created whatever. So I could be asleep today, the 7th of the 10th, 2024. Tomorrow will be the 8th of the 10th, 2024. The simulation could be creating something at this very moment, unbeknownst to me, in an identical parallel world of an NPC, an on-play character, an artificial intelligence controlled bot, so advanced you couldn't tell it's not real. You're going to look at the created AI Aaron and think it's him. Everything about me will be replicated in a character the simulation creates. In an identical parallel world. It's why we sleep. Because when we sleep, we ascend, we transcend to different parts of the dimension. Identical parallel worlds. Unbeknownst to us, because you can't tell. You're waking up in the same bedroom, you're looking at the same, my bedroom, the same scruffy wallpaper. Everything right down to the ashtray, to the cup of coffee you've had the day before. How much is in your cup of coffee? The next morning when you wake up, you're in a parallel world, but you don't know. And it's so advanced. There's no words I understand or could use to even describe or even come close to describing how advanced the simulation is. Yeah, I've got a cup of coffee on the side, right? I've got some milk, I've got some pop, I've got my phone, my laptop. I've got some clothes on the floor, I've got a vacuum cleaner over there, my curtains. Tomorrow I could wake up in a different reality, identical to this one, and every single thing will be the same. Every single detail of what I'm looking at now, tomorrow, right, will be the same. And let's say there's an NPC character in an identical world now, doing God knows what, unbeknownst to me. And then tomorrow the NPC could transcend into my reality where I am now. And I believe there's an audience aspect to life, a Truman Show. People get to view us, watch us as some kind of entertainment. In what dimension that happens, well, I'm not sure. That's why I'm very cautious not to commit to saying you're doing this or you're doing that, whichever dimension I'm in, because I don't honestly know. In one dimension, there might be an audience aspect to reality, like people get to watch people as entertainment, like the Truman Show. But in other dimensions, that might not be happening. In some dimensions, that doesn't exist. It's not something the government or the reptilians or whichever other ET race they have an alliance with, the trades and we'll scratch your back if you scratch ours, and what have you got? We've got this. We'll give you advancements in this technology and you'll give us this. Because that's definitely going on. I mean, why are extraterrestrials disclosed? Why are the reptilians doing it? Because they're here. Anyone who doesn't think they're here, either don't give a shit about this, or they're limited to what they can think. So there's definitely an alliance with the ETs. But what they're doing, well, it's enough to make your fucking teeth curl, if I had any. All kinds of things, you can, you don't want to imagine. Anyway, I'm just gonna quickly say this. I speak about a lot of things. I don't commit to saying this is what it is. The things I'm speaking about are very much in the public domain. I could do a YouTube channel. It'd be no different than what anyone else is saying out there. Apart from no one's going to listen to me. Unfortunately, genetics, evolution, the simulation has given me a right horrible sounding tone. I've got this knack, this ability, to sound arrogant and obnoxious. I could set up a YouTube channel, people would listen for 1 minute and they'd turn off. I'd turn off if I had to listen to me speak for 2 minutes, because I find my voice irritating. I find it extremely irritating and annoying. Anyway, I am anticipating something else. I don't know what the Matrix has created, what they've made me, do, or just say someone that looks identical to me, where you can't tell it's not me. You just can't. It's so fucking advanced. I've been experiencing non-player characters my entire life. I've been experiencing parallel worlds my entire life. I could sit down and I could give this, credible foundation. Not just I know, like some schizophrenic fucking symptom. Why do you think this? Well, I don't know, I just know. No, I can give many reasons why I know. Many reasons that I can pinpoint certain times in my life. I can provide evidence. But no one's going to believe it. No one's going to prove simulation theory. But how the fuck do you prove that, in one dimension you're the conscious of thinking aware person, and then in another dimension, identical to the one you're in, it's a non-player character? How do you prove that? No, you can't prove it, and a dickhead like me's not going to prove it. A 44-year-old dickhead like me. I think if the creation wanted people to know that we're in a simulator, I mean, come on. There's loads of books wrote on parallel worlds by professors and PhD fucking physicists. There's loads of fucking, I saw a video yesterday with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist. Over 5 million views. It's just an area of subject, it's just an area of interest. Whether that's just your own individual interest, or you're a scientist researching this stuff. No one's going to listen to what I've got to say about anything. No one ever has listened to me about anything. Which is not, I don't mind. I don't think I've got anything important. I'm not paying no one's bills. I'm not addressing their immediate concerns. I'm not feeding the children. So they don't give a shit what I've got to say, do they? Anyway, I've had a quiet day today. It's been quite nice. I've done a bit of cleaning. It takes it out of me, don't get me wrong. I could do it as a full-time job, cleaning. Do you know what? Cleaners, right? Why are there no campaigns, right? To get fucking cleaners the right fucking wages. It annoys me because it's seen as low skilled, right? It's low paid, but you've got to take the physical part into it. Cleaning is not a fucking easy job. Low skilled it may be, right? But doing that, right, as a job, and in hot weather, I hope companies pay their cleaners, fucking right, and don't get away with the minimum wage bullshit. If I was a CEO of a big company, I'd make sure my cleaners, right, got a fucking good wage, decent holiday pay, a nice big fat Christmas bonus, right, great big fucking turkey, right, a couple of quid for the season. What's this? Kim and Aggie's review on cleaning. I should set up a fucking YouTube channel on the on the rights. I need to set up a fucking campaign. Rights for cleaners. Proper pay for cleaners. No one's fucking doing it, and they should be. No one's doing it, and they should be. I used to see the cleaners on the ward, you people. And in blistering hot weathers. I felt their fucking suffering. I really thought, fucking hell. Look at how fucking flustered they look. This is not an easy job. Anyway, I'm going to start there before I start talking about Mango Factory again.